There was this year in Phoenix when the streets didn't feel safe anymore. Need to walk to your car? Better sprint. Pump gas? Keep one hand on the nozzle and one hand dialing 911, just in case. That was 2005, when a stranger began attacking people with no clear pattern and no clear motive. Just sudden, unpredictable violence that seemed to strike anywhere at any time. Police called him the baseline killer, and for months he kept the entire city on edge. And here's the part that feels like karma at work. The tip that led cops to his door came from a survivor of one of his earliest attacks, long before Phoenix knew his name. Thanks for watching. I'm Amy. Let's recap. It's September 20th, 2005 in Phoenix. Two sisters in their early 20s, one 6 months pregnant, are walking home through a park near Baseline Road. It's late, it's quiet, it's dark, the kind of dark where you start regretting every true crime show you've ever binged. And then, out of absolutely nowhere, a man steps into their path. He pulls a gun and orders them off the trail. Now, the pregnant sister tries to step in front. She's doing the protective older sibling thing that we all say we're going to do, but we secretly hope we are never going to have to be put to the test on that. But he doesn't care, not even a flicker. He forces them into the bushes, tells them to strip, and assaults the younger sister while pointing the gun at the pregnant sister's stomach, which is not just evil. Are you kidding me? Universe levels of horrifying. It's fast, it's violent, it's the kind of moment that changes everything. For them, for Phoenix, and for the investigation. And then, just as quickly as he appeared, he slips back into the night like he was never there at all. The sisters survive, but the trauma doesn't go anywhere. It follows them, stays with them. And what they don't know, what no one knows yet, is that their attacker has just made the mistake that will eventually take him down.
In the midst of all that brutality, he makes a mistake. He leaves DNA behind. It's collected, logged into evidence, and then it just sits there for months. No match. No identity. Just a silent file waiting for the day it finally means something. And when investigators eventually link that DNA to a suspect, that single trace will crack the entire Baseline killer investigation wide open. But to grasp how massive that breakthrough really is, you have to understand what Phoenix had already endured. By the time these sisters are attacked, fear has already taken hold of the city. The crime spree had actually started weeks earlier, on August 6, 2005. 3 junior high school girls are walking home from a party near a church off Baseline Road. A man approaches them with a gun, forces them behind a building, and sexually assaults 2 of the girls. The attack is shocking, fearless, and only the beginning. Days later, another sexual assault occurs, along with a robbery. Then the violence escalates dramatically. On September 8, 2005, 19-year-old Georgia Thompson is discovered shot to death outside an apartment complex in Tempe. She had just gotten out of her car after spending the evening with her boyfriend and his parents. One moment she's saying goodnight, the next moment her life is over. A week later, another sexual assault is reported. The following week, a pregnant woman and her sister are attacked. And by now, investigators are struggling to understand what they're facing. Is it one attacker? Multiple offenders? An organized group? The assaults are sudden. They are brutal. They happen everywhere. Some victims are robbed. Some are sexually assaulted. Others are gunned down in broad daylight.
There's no pattern to follow. Victims are young, old, Hispanic, black, white, no age, no race, no routine connecting them. And the attacker, he changes everything. He wears wigs, hats, Halloween masks. He bounces between neighborhoods. Sometimes he talks, sometimes he stays silent. It's complete chaos. The kind of case detectives hate because you cannot predict what is coming next. But one detail finally rises to the surface. A lot of these crimes are happening near Baseline Road, and that's when the name sticks, the Baseline Killer. Baseline Road is one of Phoenix's main east-west arteries, a long stretch of strip malls, gas stations, apartment complexes, everyday life. Now, during the day, it's busy, it's ordinary, it's nothing dramatic, there's nothing that screams danger. But at night, it's a different story. Parts of it go quiet. The lighting gets patchy, there are wide parking lots, empty sidewalks, pockets where someone can slip away quickly or step out before you even know they're there. It's exactly the kind of place where a predator can move around without drawing attention. Well, after the attack on the pregnant woman and her sister, the Baseline Killer doesn't slow down. He picks up speed, and the crimes get even bolder. On September 28th, there's a robbery at a strip mall near Baseline Road. He's in, he's out, he's gone before anyone knows what happened. Later that same night, just before 9:30 p.m., a woman is robbed and sexually assaulted. Same attacker, same sudden burst of violence, same vanishing act into the night. But this is only the warm-up. By November, the baseline killer is bolder. He's more confident. It's even harder to predict. On November 3rd, he hits 2 targets just 10 minutes apart. At 8:01 p.m., a shop in Phoenix is robbed. Witnesses say the man is wearing dreadlocks and a fisherman's hat. He pulls a gun, takes $720, and walks out with the kind of ease that tells you he's not worried about getting caught. 9 minutes later, a woman dropping off donations across the street is grabbed and forced into her own car. She survives, thank God, and her description stops detectives cold. He's wearing a Halloween mask, black plastic glasses, and the whole time he's calm. Completely in control. Like this is routine for him because at this point it is. He even tells her to drop him off on a corner, up there at a corner because he just committed a robbery. And that's when investigators realize they're dealing with someone who can move fast, change directions instantly, and vanish before anyone can react. 4 days later, he unleashes one of the most chaotic bursts of violence Phoenix has ever seen. At 8:08 p.m. inside Las Brasas, a Mexican restaurant, he robs 4 people at gunpoint. And then he steps outside and robs 4 more people on the street. And then, because apparently this night has a quota, he walks into the Little Caesars next door and robs 3 more people. 3 locations, 11 victims, all within minutes, all done by one guy. He gets away with less than $500 and fires a shot into the air as he leaves. Not out of fear, but because he feels completely in control. But that bullet casing is going to come back to haunt him. And just when Phoenix thinks it can't get worse, it does. December 12, 2005. It's just before 7 p.m. 39-year-old Tina Washington is walking to the bus stop after a Christmas party at the preschool where she works. She's carrying her secret Santa gift. Should be an ordinary walk. Inside a nearby warehouse, a worker hears 2 loud bangs outside the back door. Now, he thinks it's just neighborhood kids messing around. So he opens the big metal door to tell them to knock it off, go home. But instead, he sees a man crouching over Tina's body. Her gift is lying right next to her. The man stands up, raises his gun, looks this guy straight in the eye, pulls the trigger, but the gun misfires. The warehouse worker is like, holy crap, slams the door shut, locks it. The shooter tries the handle. The trying the handle part is the part that I cannot get away from because can't you imagine it? You're there in this warehouse staring at the door being like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And he's trying the handle. Oh, but it holds. Thank God. The guy disappears into the night, and by the time police arrive, he's long gone. The message is clear. He is getting more violent and more confident. And only 24 hours later, he proves it. Another woman is robbed at gunpoint. No disguise, no mask, just this same unnerving calm that every witness mentions, like he's completely in control. And then Phoenix wakes up to another horror. February 20th, 2006, just after 7:30 in the morning, when 2 women, Romelia Vargas, 38, and Mirna Palma Roman, 34, are found shot to death inside their mobile snack truck. They'd been serving the usual morning comforts. Coffee, pastries, soda, breakfast burritos. The kind of friendly stop that workers rely on to start their day. And now they're slumped over inside, killed execution style. At first, detectives don't think, oh, baseline killer. No, because they think, well, this looks like maybe a robbery gone wrong. Maybe it's even drug related. Nothing about the scene matches the other attacks. But nothing matches anything. But except for one thing. The ballistics. But months later, ballistics connect the bullets found in that food truck to the same ballistics found at all these crime scenes. Suddenly, these 2 women who are just trying to make a living are part of this same nightmare suffocating Phoenix. Well, a few weeks later, things get even worse. It's March 2006.
They finish their shift at Yoshi's restaurant and leave together in a car, but neither of them ever makes it home. Liliana Sanchez Cabrera, just 20 years old and working the very first day of her very first job, is later found dead in a parking lot roughly a mile away. Her manager, George Cow, who had offered to drive her home, is discovered in an alley near the restaurant. Both victims are shot in the head. There's no sign of robbery, no apparent motive, just sudden, senseless violence. Another chilling signal that the baseline killer is not slowing down. Weeks after the Yoshi murders, Phoenix is shaken by something even more disturbing. On March 29, shortly after midnight, A local businessman notices what appears to be streaks of blood across a parking lot and calls the police. Officers respond and search the area, but in the darkness they find nothing conclusive. A week later, the same man returns to that lot, and this time there's a foul odor lingering in the air. Following the smell behind a building, he discovers the naked, badly decomposed body of Kristen Nicole Gibbons. She had been shot in the head. Reporters later highlight a disturbing connection. That parking lot sits less than a mile from the double murder that occurred on March 15th. The baseline killer isn't roaming randomly, he's circling the same neighborhoods again and again. Then, on April 10, 2006, the violence crosses another line. It enters a private home. Sophia Nunez, a young mother, is shot at.
Her 8-year-old son finds her when he gets home from school. Another attack with no warning, no clear motive. A few weeks later, on May 1st, the baseline killer repeats a pattern detectives are starting to recognize. He goes back to a place where he's already attacked before. It's around 9 p.m. when a woman heads to her car outside the same 2 restaurants he targeted months earlier, Las Brasas and Little Caesars. A man in a latex Halloween mask suddenly appears, points a gun at her, forces her into her car, and assaults her. He never takes the mask off. Same location, same time of night, same confidence, moving through the area. By this point, it's clear he isn't just striking at random. He's returning to spots he knows well, places where he's already tested the lighting, the timing, the escape routes. By May 5th, 2006, Phoenix police decide that they cannot keep this contained anymore. And I feel like that decision should have been made earlier. But they hold a press conference and they release a list of 18 crimes that they now believe are connected. All the work of this one man. By August, that list jumps to 23. Now, the reaction is speedy. People stop going out after dark. Some won't even walk to the mailbox without checking the street first. Grocery store parking lots turn into anxiety zones. Gas stations feel like traps. Even quick errands come with a sense of risk. The entire city is on edge. And the worst part, the killer isn't finished. June 29th, 2006. It's about 9:30 p.m. at a self-serve car wash. 37-year-old Carmen Miranda pulls in to vacuum out her car. She's on the phone with her boyfriend at the same time. They're just chatting, just a normal conversation, when he suddenly hears her scream. She's beaten up, she's forced into her car's passenger seat and driven to a dark spot behind a barbershop just a few hundred yards away. There, he shoots her once in the forehead and leaves her body in the back seat. Now, this becomes the final crime officially linked to the baseline killer. And by this point, Phoenix is out of patience, or out of time. They're completely out of explanations. The attacks are getting more brazen. The victim count is piling up, and the entire community is living in fear, waiting for someone to stop him. So police start putting up posters and billboards everywhere. Gas stations, bus stops, freeway ramps, all showing the same sketch. A man in a hat, fake-looking dreadlocks, and the kind of expression that says, "Yes, I am absolutely the problem." They even offer a $100,000 reward. And that's when someone from his past sees it. A woman. Now, the Phoenix New Times article that reported on this calls her Darlene. So we're going to call her Darlene. She survived an attack from the early 90s. Now, fast forward to July 2006, she takes one look at the sketch and says, essentially, yeah, I know exactly who that fucker is. She calls it in, and that tip lands right on the detective's desk. Mark Goudeau, 41 years old, construction worker. If you pass this guy on the street, you wouldn't think serial predator. You'd think, okay, this man owns a leaf blower. He's happily married, lives in a tidy little house in a perfectly respectable neighborhood in Phoenix. Neighbors describe him as friendly, polite, good with his lawn. But dig into his past and the picture changes quickly. So back in 1989, Darlene told police that Mark pistol whipped her, slammed her head against a barbell, then tried to drown her in a bathtub. She somehow managed to escape into the parking lot with him chasing right behind her until bystanders called 911. Her injuries were horrific. Fractured skull, deep cuts, bruises everywhere. She spent days in the hospital before she could even give police his name. But he was arrested. Now, some of the charges were negotiated down in a plea deal, but he still landed a 21-year sentence for the attack. And here's the part that hits like a brick. He was paroled out in 2004. 8 years early. The baseline attacks started about a year after he got out, because of course they did. And once detectives have his name, they start digging. A detective and his parole officer follow up on Darlene's tip, like right away. Knock, 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 Mark. So according to the Phoenix New Times article, Mark stays calm, polite, completely cooperative, the kind of guy who offers you a glass of water while you search his living room. The PO doesn't see anything suspicious lying around, but Mark's name and his DNA go straight onto the task force list of possible suspects. And meanwhile, he's already made the mistake that's going to put him behind bars.
Remember that attack on the sisters? The DNA he left behind? Well, here's the part he completely misjudged. He used a condom, clearly trying not to leave evidence, but he still left DNA in 2 spots on the younger sister's chest. Then he tried to wipe it away. Not subtly. He used her sister's spit and dirt from the ground to scrub at her skin like he could just, rub away this felony, but he couldn't. When the sample reached the crime lab, technicians tested one portion, but the DNA in that portion was so faint and damaged that they couldn't get a match. So they're like, well, we're not going to bother. Who cares? Obviously this isn't viable. So it sat there for months. The other portion practically collecting dust because, that first test came back too weak to point to anyone. But eventually the lab tested, they sent it up to the States, a whole, lab story journey. But eventually they tested the other part of the sample, the one from the opposite side of her chest. And that's when everything changed, because that second test hit.
Not a partial match, not a maybe. It's a full, clear match to Mark Goudeau. On his 42nd birthday in September, police showed up at his house, not with a cake, with handcuffs. No chase, no standoff, he surrenders. Now, at first, prosecutors only charge him with the sexual assaults of the 2 sisters, because that's all they have forensically proven so far. But that doesn't last long. As detectives dig deeper, pulling DNA results, they're matching ballistics, they're connecting items found in his home to multiple victims, and realizing, well, look at this, he lived within walking distance of several attack locations. Now that's when the picture gets uglier and the list of charges grows and grows and keeps growing. And before long, he's staring down 74 crimes tied to the baseline killer. And then there's one more twist. Oh, this is a happy one this time. So several months later, according to the Phoenix New Times, the city cuts a $100,000 reward check to Darlene, the woman he brutalized years earlier. Talk about a literal and very symbolic payback for surviving an attack from a man who would later go on to terrorize an entire city. Well, the case is massive. It's easily one of the most complicated and horrifying cases that Phoenix had ever handled at that point. Across multiple trials, prosecutors walked the jury through crime scene after crime scene, victim after victim. Survivors described the disguises he wore, wigs, hats, that Halloween mask, the hair, the hat, all the stuff that you could buy last minute at a costume store. And they talk about how calm he seemed, how fast he moved, how methodical he was. It becomes painfully clear, obviously, this guy was not sloppy. He was intentional. And then the science sews it all up, the part you just can't argue with. The ballistics, the DNA on the sisters, a victim's phone pinged near his house after she was murdered. The victim DNA shows up on his Nikes, on a ski mask in his laundry hamper. Tina Washington's cherished jewelry, it's like a ring with her son's names engraved on it, is found tucked inside his clothes.
This time, the jury doesn't deliberate for long. Moreau is convicted on 67 separate counts, including all 9 murders along with dozens of assaults, kidnappings, and robberies. His punishment is staggering: 9 death sentences, plus nearly 1,800 years behind bars. It becomes one of the harshest sentences ever handed down in Arizona's history. Today he remains on death row, continuing to file appeals and maintaining his innocence, even in the face of evidence so overwhelming it could hardly be clearer if it announced itself with a marching band.